Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our class again on Angel Encounters. I hope you are as hungry as I am because we are about to feed on the Word. If you didn't get one of these and you want one, raise your hand and we'll find one for you. Tim, there's a couple of them that need or would like one. Do we have any copies? I don't know where they are. Okay, he's going to make some copies. You know what? I think Tim Massenbrook had the copies. And he laid his Harley down, so he is not here today. I was going to say, that's the reason. So, you know, I'm Dave Sims because I'm not the one that's on crutches. Tim's the one on crutches. Correct. Yeah, just that one page. Exodus, which is, Exodus through Joshua. So we are in Exodus, and last week we went through this one, the Red Sea, from Exodus chapter 14, right? We go through in that Red Sea encounter. So remember what happened, right? We had a period of time where God went to Moses through the burning bush, and it says that the bush was the angel of the Lord burning, and then from the bush, God said. And so those were kind of interesting words there that kind of, you know, is there an interchangeability there between the angel of the Lord that was in the burning bush and God himself that spoke from the burning bush? Kind of an interesting thought. But as we went through that whole portion, we then went through the Red Sea. We watched how God was protecting his people that night through the Passover, and then we went through the Red Sea. So here we are after the Red Sea. What happens when they cross the Red Sea and they're done? Then where do they go? Where do they go next? Sorry, not Exodus 23. Not quite there yet. Where? Into the wilderness, and then specifically, they go up a mountain for what? Sorry? So the law is given, right? So Exodus chapters 19 through 24, 5-ish, you'll find this account of where God starts to speak to his people, right? So for the first time, God's going to talk to them. Has God talked to them before? As his people grew in Egypt? Was he in constant communication with them? No. So the only contact they had with God was in that last few weeks here where God told Moses to go tell them. And so Moses and Aaron went and told the elders of Israel while they were slaves. Here's what God told me. He just said, do this weird stuff, right? Take a lamb and kill it tonight and put the blood on the doorposts. And then trust me, this is going to be a fun evening. And then we're going to run away. And we're going to plunder the Egyptians. And so they ran out into the middle of the wilderness, and then overnight God protected them. He says he put his angel behind them in between the army of Egypt. And then here it is the next day. They're on the other side. The Egyptian army is dead, swept away by the floodwaters of the Red Sea that came back after God stopped the dividing. And now he says, I want to talk to you guys directly. So you get this picture of the smoke on the cloud and how God in a big booming voice says, and he starts to tell them the 10 commandments. And what was the people's response to God's big, loud, booming voice with the 10 commandments? You remember? They were afraid. And they actually told Moses, can you and God maybe take this somewhere else? Right? They were afraid. And so God goes with Moses, the two of them. Moses enters into the smoke, it says. And the two of them talk, and he gives them all of the law. And then he comes back down and he shares with them, here's what God told me. What do you think? And the people said, yeah, let's do that. We will be God's people, and God will be he'll be our God. And then here we go. Moses goes back up there to get the rest of this. And in this encounter, in this portion where God is explaining, here's my law. These are the parameters about which we're gonna have this covenant relationship, right? I will be your God. I'll protect you, and you will be my people. You're gonna obey me. Now, as part of this, Exodus 23 happens. So let's read this real quick. See, I'm sending an angel ahead of you to guard you along the way and to bring you to the place I have prepared. Pay attention to him and listen to what he says. Do not rebel against him. He will not forgive your rebellion, since my name is in him. If you listen carefully to what he says and do all that I say, I will be an enemy to your enemies, and I will oppose those who oppose you. My angel will go ahead of you and bring you into the land of the Amorites, the Hittites, Perizzites, Canaanites, Hivites, and Jebusites, and I will wipe them out. Do not bow down before their gods or worship them or follow their practices. You must demolish them and break their sacred stones to pieces. Worship the Lord your God, and his blessing will be on your food and water. I will take away sickness from among you, and none will miscarry or be barren in your land. I will give you a full lifespan. I will send my terror ahead of you. Excuse me. And I'll throw into confusion every nation you encounter. I will make all your enemies turn their backs and run. I will send the hornet ahead of you to drive the Hivites, Canaanites, and Hittites out of your way. But I will not drive them out in a single year, because the land would become desolate and the wild animals too numerous for you. Little by little I will drive them out before you until you have increased enough to take possession of the land. I will establish your borders from the Red Sea to the Sea of the Philistines, and from the desert to the river. I will hand over to you the people who live in that land, and you will drive them out before you. Do not make a covenant with them or with their gods. Do not let them live in your land, or they will cause you to sin against me, because the worship of their gods will certainly be a snare to you. All right, so these are all words that, oh, hey, Tim's got some. So if you want one of these, okay. Oh, yikes. I think I only saw 3 hands, so that's good. So there's one, they'll share. Great. There we go in the back. So this is, by the way, if you hadn't seen one, this is just a table for us to use as a kind of a reference, I guess, as we go through these angel encounters to figure out some of the stuff. You can write your own notes on what we see, what we observe, and we're discovering this together, trying to figure out what these angels look like, what they did. Maybe sometimes they physically were there, other times they were not visible, but we're trying to figure this out because, you know, we hear a lot about angels today, guardian angels, and you know, it seems like everything we know about angels we read from or saw in a movie from Hollywood. So I'm trying to figure out what the Bible actually says, right? And it just so happens that one of our members wrote a book about what he found. Bless you. So he's been studying it for years, Tim Mastenbrook, and he found all kinds of great stuff. Wrote a book. It's fascinating. You should read it. But this study is to go through those so that we can discover some of these things together, and it's really to encourage you to continue further study, because every time you open up one of these stories, it should cause you to want to pursue some of these interesting topics. All right, so what do we see about the angel here? As God is discussing this with Moses, and he gets to this portion, what's going on? What do you see? Anything about an angel in here? He's going to send him on ahead. Have we heard that before in some of the stuff? We've gone through Genesis. This is Exodus. But there were a lot of encounters we've seen before. Does this phrase appear in other places? When? When did we talk about this? Who was the one who was confident because God said he'd send his angel first? Leah?
In Genesis 24, Abraham said God will send an angel ahead when he was looking, his servant was looking for a wife for Isaac.
That's right. Okay, so when he was looking for a wife for his son Isaac, and he said God has sent an angel ahead to make sure that it happens, right? And that you get the right one. So it's almost like saying, may God bless your journey because we're praying for you to find the right wife. Is that appropriate today? I think that's a pretty appropriate thing to pray for. Were there other times when God said he'd send his angel ahead? I guess what I'm asking, it's weird. Is this a new thing that God says he's going to send his angel ahead? I don't think it's a new thing. What is this where, let me go ahead and advance this so I can highlight a couple of these things. He says here in verse 21, pay attention to him because he's important. Why is he important? What does that mean? Because my name is in him? Does anybody have another version that might say something else? I mean, this is from the NIV. It just says, my name is in this angel, therefore pay attention to him. Do not rebel against him. I find this fascinating. It's perplexing to me. I don't understand what that phrase means, where God says, my name is in him, or maybe my name is on him. Remember, an angel, by definition, is a messenger from God. Is it possible that there are people in your life that are like this guy? And that maybe God says, I want you to pay attention to this guy, these elders in your congregation, because my name is in them. That's when it gets personal, right? I wonder if that's kind of the same way, because these men represent my wisdom. You know, maybe that's what's going on here. I find it fascinating. Maybe you don't.
Not just elders, but anybody who truly has God in their heart.
How about that?
God is in them, and they're presenting to everyone else if they're truly filled with the Spirit.
Amen. Good stuff. Tim?
One different translation I looked up is, he's acting on my authority. Wow. It's kind of interesting.
It is. Think about this. Every time you stand up in school and wave that banner around like Chad was talking about earlier today, whose banner are you waving? You're under the authority of God to say, you know what, that's not right. Why are you forcing these people to take these tests and answer questions like that, or whatever it is? The task that you have before you, you're like this angel when you are representing God on that behalf. So recognize the awesome responsibility. When you open your mouth and say words on God's behalf, make sure they're accurate. All right, other thoughts on this part? Yeah. Wow. Wow. God's forgiveness goes on to the third generation and his grace, right? But then he also points out the fact that he'll execute judgment on those to the third generation, to the seventh generation. And my angel may not be so kind and gracious. Yeah, Richard.
When in the other passages, it's been the angels talking on behalf of God. It doesn't kind of give a prelude into it. But this one is almost as instructing, saying that my angel's talking for me, so listen to this. But just as you said, it's nothing new. It's just a different perspective, which is interesting how it comes up in this because of the different perspective of where God is in the conversation.
That is fascinating. Did everybody hear that? I want to make sure you get that. Because in the previous verses that we've read through Genesis and stuff like that, even in the one that we just read last week with God calling out from the burning bush. So you've got this description of an angel, and the angel talks, and as the angel speaks, it's like you could just put quotes around it, because all of a sudden when the angel is speaking, it says, I, the Lord your God. So it's like the angel is quoting God when the angel speaks. He's referring to God in his quotes as he talks. And again, that kind of brings up this idea, wow, you know what, they're kind of interchangeable. Are they? Let's study that further, right? It's a matter, well, wait a minute. If it's the angel talking, but he says, I, Jehovah, your God, declare this for you. But now, as Richard points out, this is different. This is God, Jehovah, Yahweh, saying, I'm going to send an angel, and here's what he's going to say, and here's what he's going to do. And I want to make sure you understand who this guy is, because he's got my name in it. It's the opposite of that. This is God describing the angel, what the angel's going to say, what the angel's going to do. I love it. Totally different perspective. What else? Is it possible that God is using other words to describe angels later on in this text? I've got them highlighted here. It doesn't say angel, but I'm wondering if when he says, I will send my terror, if that's the angel we discussed last week, right? There is such a thing as an angel of destruction or an angel of calamity that was described in some of these things we read about last week. Both Old Testament and New Testament referred back to the one who went over the houses during that Passover event. You put the blood on the doorposts. And in the account we read in the Exodus, God said, I will pass over you. In the accounts we read in the New Testament, it said, my angel of calamity will pass over you. Are they interchangeable? When he says, I will send my terror ahead of you and throw your enemies into confusion, I will send the hornet ahead of you to drive the Hittites and Canaanites and Hivites away. Is he referring to his angel with these two words? What are your thoughts? Yeah? No?
I was
Sims, you're all wet.
before Joshua was in, and he sent them out, and they said they're too big, we can't do this. And they ended up coming back, and they're saying, no, we can do this, but they ended up being another 40 years in
There's a lot of description here that's where he says generically, as you're going to go through this I guess voyage, or you're wandering through the desert, right? At this point, did they know they were going to be wandering in the desert for 40 years? No. This is right out of Egypt. Okay, they go. I mean, it's not even the first month. This is within a couple of weeks. They're out there. God is saying, here's what's going on. And as you go on your journey to the land I promised Abraham a long time ago, here's what I'm going to do. Because the people are just now being introduced to God. Remember that as a perspective. When you look at this, they're just being introduced to God. And he says, here I am. And it's a big, booming, scary voice. They say, please take that outside. And it's an interesting side note. God says the reason why I put the fear in them is to keep them from sinning. The reason I have such a big, loud, booming voice, to keep them from sinning. And apparently that didn't work. But as they go through here, the whole point was to get you to the promised land. And a lot of these people are going, yeah, but there's people in that land. And this is God making sure they are calm. Look, I got this. I know there's people there already. It's my gift to you to give you their vineyards that you didn't plant, their houses that you didn't build, right? That's my gift to you. And so he's saying, I'm going to send this angel ahead of you to where you don't have to do the heavy lifting. You don't have to worry about that stuff. Leah, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, you asked if they could be interchangeable, and we can see they are different words. He may be using angels in that way, but I don't think those could be interchangeable. But what I do think he might be saying is that it's not all going to be things raining down from heaven. He's going to use the angels to do this. He's going to use, well, we can see it in Jericho, the terror, the fear of the Israelites coming was enough for them. He might even use the hornet. He might use natural causes. But whatever it is that you see happening that is going to be clearing the land, know that I promised it, and it's coming for me. Don't just go, wow, what a coincidence. Look.
That was weird. It's a good thing we got our feet out of the Red Sea just in time for it to swallow up. Yeah, how many Egyptians, by the way, how many Egyptian soldiers the night before died from an Israelite sword? None. That was a situation in which God completely took care of the problem for them, right? They did not have to fight that battle. There are others as we go through here. You guys know the stories. There are others where God, and most of them, God is going to send his terror ahead of them, but there is work to do. God's going to do his part. You have to do your part. And I think that's a huge lesson for us. Yeah, Bill.
He took them down to where they were drinking water themselves.
Yeah.
Because he said, no, that's too many.
Too many. Let's start dividing them out again. Yeah, based on how they drink. All right, let's take a look at this next one. So Moses goes down, he gives it, that actually says it, he wrote this down, and as I was studying through this, I had forgotten that. But Moses came down the mountain and he wrote down what God had said. And then he opens up the book that he had wrote and he starts to tell the people, what do you think? The people go, yeah, that looks great. So then Moses goes back up, and this time he's up for 40 days and 40 nights, doesn't eat or drink, and he's writing it down. God is actually, he carves out these stone tablets, I guess first time God carves out stone tablets. And then God writes with his finger the commandments, and he brings them down, and this is what happens here. Remember, there's something wrong in the camp, right? What was that something wrong? The people were impatient. 40 days? Seriously? And they started grumbling amongst themselves. 40 days? We don't even know if this guy's still alive. All I know is that I'm free from Egypt. What are we going to do now? And they go to Aaron, and Aaron decides, hey, I got a good idea. Let's make a golden calf and bow down and worship it. From Exodus chapter 32. Sorry, I got to turn my page. When Moses approached the camp and saw the calf and the dancing, his anger burned, and he threw the tablets out of his hands, breaking them to pieces at the foot of the mountain. And he took the calf they had made and burned it in the fire, and then he ground it to powder, scattered it on the water, and made the Israelites drink it. For the sake of time, I'm going to skip down to verse 30. The next day, Moses said to the people, you've committed a great sin, but now I will go up to the Lord. Perhaps I can make atonement for your sin. So Moses went back to the Lord and said, oh, what a great sin these people have committed. They've made themselves gods of gold. But now please forgive their sin. But if not, then blot me out of the book you have written. And the Lord replied to Moses, whoever has sinned against me, I will blot out of my book. Now go lead the people to the place I spoke of, and my angel will go before you. However, when the time comes for me to punish, I will punish them for their sin. And the Lord struck the people with a plague because of what they did with the calf Aaron had made. Again, just a reference to the fact that God's going to send his angel. But as you're going through this, I want to make sure you get these nuggets, because this is great stuff. And I think this is the whole beauty of feeding on the word. As you dig in and you've got a target in your mind and something else pops up, there is a huge, huge statement that is made. One by God, one by Moses. Going back to Chad's lesson last week, it completely obliterates the point he was making with this doctrine of once saved, always saved. Did you guys see that in what we just read? There's another prevalent doctrine among the Christian world today, and that is that when you are born sinful. You are born evil. And there's a statement Moses makes and a statement God makes, and it renders either one or the other or both of those philosophies completely irrelevant. It obliterates them. Did you see that? Where is it and how does that work? Anyone find it there? Moses says, but now please forgive their sins, but if not, then blot me out of the book you have written, right? We know from Revelation chapter 20 that those whose names are written in the book of life are the ones who get to come in, right? And Moses says, blot me out. If you're not going to accept their apology, take me instead on their behalf, right? Another great lesson, right? He's assuming the role of Jesus in that regard. I want to die for their sin, right? But when he says, blot me out, well, only one of two things. And God confirms it in his point. Whoever has sinned against me, I will blot out of my book. Now go and do your job. So if there is such a thing as blotting out of the book, then one of two things happens. Either everybody's name is written in the book of life, and it's a matter of God blotting out that name when they have sinned, as God just said. Or maybe you're looking at it a different way and saying, well, their names aren't written in that book until they become a Christian. Once their names are written in that book, they cannot be blotted out, in which case you just made God's phrase to be false. How's he going to blot out a name that cannot be blotted out? Once it's written, it's written. Anyway, I find that fascinating. Maybe you don't, but I wanted to take some time on that. Leah?
In verse 34 about that angel.
Yes.
Is this something new, or is he just reaffirming his promise that we went over in Exodus 20, that he's going to send his angel ahead? So even though they sinned, I'm still sending my angel ahead.
I think it's different, and here's why. It's because I ran out of space on this page. Exodus 33. Then the Lord said to Moses, leave this place, and you and the people you brought out of Egypt, and go to the land I promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will give it to your descendants. I will send an angel before you and drive out the Canaanites. the Amorites, the Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. Go up to the land flowing with milk and honey, but I will not go with you, because you are a stiff-necked people. I might destroy you on the way. I think it's different this time when he says, I'm going to send my angel. As opposed to saying, as I'm going with you, and I'm going to send the angel ahead, and then you and I and all the people, we're going to gather together. Remember, I, the Lord, Jehovah, I will dwell with you in the cloud and in the smoke, my presence, all that stuff. And all of a sudden, it's like, you know what? I'm just sending my angel, because if I go with you, I'm going to destroy you. Continue reading. Verse 7. Now Moses used to take a tent and pitch it outside the camp some distance away, calling it the tent of meeting. Anyone inquiring of the Lord would go to the tent of meeting outside the camp. And whenever Moses went out to the tent, all the people rose and stood at the entrance to their tents, watching Moses until he entered the tent. As Moses went into the tent, the pillar of cloud would come down and stay at the entrance, while the Lord spoke with Moses. And whenever the people saw the pillar of cloud standing at the entrance to the tent, they all stood and worshiped, each at the entrance to his tent. The Lord would speak to Moses face to face, as a man speaks with his friend. Then Moses would return to the camp, but his young aide, Joshua, son of Nun, did not leave the tent. Moses said to the Lord, you've been telling me, lead these people, but you've not let me know whom you will send with me. You have said, I know you by name, and you have found favor with me. If you are pleased with me, please teach me your ways, so I may know you and continue to find favor with you. Remember that this nation is your people. Verse 14, the Lord replied, my presence will go with you, and I will give you rest. Then Moses said to him, if your presence does not go with us, do not send us up from here. How will anyone know that you are pleased with me and with your people unless you go with us? What else will distinguish me and your people from all the other people on the face of the earth? And the Lord said to Moses, I will do the very thing you have asked, because I am pleased with you and I know you by name. Then Moses said, now show me your glory. And the Lord said, I will cause all my goodness to pass in front of you, and I will proclaim my name, the Lord, in your presence. I will have mercy on whom I'll have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. But, he said, you cannot see my face, for no one may see me and live. Then the Lord said, there's a place near me where you may stand on a rock. When my glory passes by, I will put you in the cleft of the rock and cover you with my hand until I have passed by. Then I will remove my hand, and you will see my back, but my face must not be seen. All right. So in this is a back and forth. Why was God not going to go with them? I just might kill you. There's a reason why some animals eat their young. Right? I mean, that's what God is saying here, right? You guys are going to make me mad, just like you just did, you know? And I'm not even going to go. I'm so mad at you right now. I'm not going to go with you. And how does Moses change that? Or does he change that? What goes on here? God says, look, it was going to be me with you and an angel in front. And now it's just, I'm just going to send my angel. And you got good luck. You know, you guys are on your own, right? I'm going to send my angel and he'll do his thing. And then Moses brings him back and reminds him, we are your people. What else can we do? If you don't go with us, actually he doesn't say that. Take a look. It's if your presence doesn't go with us, then what will we do? And he also reminds him, okay, you said you're going to send your angel. I love this. Take a look at verse 12. You have not let me know whom you will send with me. Well, I said I was going to send an angel. I know, but what's his name?
I also like the part there where he says, teach me your ways.
Wow. Wow. Again, these are nuggets that pull up. Man, you know what? You want to walk with God? You want God walking with you? Humble yourself and ask God to teach you. I mean, there's lots of great stuff in here. Absolutely love it. My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest. I will cause all of my goodness. Is that the same thing as his presence? My goodness will pass by. Because remember, he just told him no one can see God face to face and live. And yet it said up here in the last one we just read about, said, that he would actually go into the tent and he and God would be face to face. Is that a contradiction? Can't see my face, so you'll die, right? So it's not a contradiction. I think the whole point is that God's presence is going to be there, and it's a phrase that was used, that he and I are friends. I know him by name, and we talk together. And yet you still can't physically see my face. I'll have to put you in the cleft of a rock and cover you with my hand as I pass by. And as he passes by, he pronounces his name. Let's continue that piece. I think this is fascinating as well. Because to start this next chapter, the Lord said to Moses, chisel out 2 stone tablets like the first ones, because after, he came down the mountain and he dropped them, he was so mad. So they shattered. So he says, chisel out 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and I, God, I will write on them the words that were on the first tablets, which you broke. Be ready in the morning and then come up to Mount Sinai. Present yourself to me there on top of the mountain. No one is to come with you or be seen anywhere on the mountain. Not even the flocks and herds may graze in front of the mountain. So Moses chiseled out 2 stone tablets like the first ones and went up Mount Sinai early in the morning, and as the Lord had commanded him. And he carried the 2 stone tablets in his hands. Then the Lord came down in the cloud and stood there with him and proclaimed his name. Proclaimed his name. The Lord, in verse 6. And he passed in front of Moses, proclaiming, the Lord, the compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness, maintaining love to thousands, and forgiving wickedness, rebellion, and sin. Yet he does not leave the guilty unpunished. He punishes the children and their children for the sin of the fathers to the 3rd and 4th generation. That is God's name. Did you catch that? The whole thing is what God says his name is. As God is passing by with his hand covering him in the cleft of the rock, God declares that whole thing from verse 5 all the way to the end of verse 7. That's his name. Verse 7, Moses bowed to the ground at once and worshipped. O Lord, if I have found favor in your eyes, he said, then let the Lord go with us. Although this is a stiff-necked people, forgive our wickedness and our sin and take us as your inheritance. And then the Lord said, I'm making a covenant with you. Before all your people I will do wonders never before done in any nation in all the world. The people you live among will see how awesome is the work that I, the Lord, will do for you. Obey what I command you today. I will drive out before you the Amorites, Canaanites, Hittites, Perizzites, and Hivites and Jebusites. Be careful not to make a treaty with any of those who live in the land where you're going, or they will be a snare among you. Break down their altars, smash their sacred stones, and cut down their Asherah poles. Do not worship any other god, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. He gives him another name. Whose name is jealous. Okay, did anybody find something weird about this? Again, we're talking about God saying, I'm not going, I'm going to send my angel. It was going to be both of us, but now not anymore. And then Moses is saying, yeah, but who? What's his name? He tells him his name and says, okay, I, the Lord, Jehovah, I'm going to go with you. But he says one more time, Moses does. He says, then let the Lord go with us. This is odd to me. This is one of those really perplexing things. Go back, right? We've talked about this a couple times before, and I just want to make sure you reminded, put a little symbol up there. This is what this is, right? The way that most translations describe God by name or however it is, right? Here's God, the Lord. Whenever it's capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D, that is a reference to Yahweh, YHWH, or Jehovah, right? This is God's name. And he didn't reveal that until, recently, right? Well, when Moses asked, what's your name? What do I call you? And he said, I am, right, the Lord. So God introduces himself here to the Israelites as Jehovah, which is always in caps. Then there's this other one, Lord, which sometimes has a capital L and then lowercase O-R-D. Other times it might just be all lowercase L-O-R-D, which is funny because it just happened in the previous chapter where Aaron went to Moses and he's describing, I kind of threw the gold in and then out popped this golden calf. He says to Moses, my Lord, why are you so angry? That's the word he used, right? It's not capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D. He's not talking to Jehovah. He was talking to Moses, and he says, yes, my Lord, why are you so angry? That's just a description of someone better than you that would be used. And then this other one, God, capital G or lowercase g. It's a generic term for God or gods. And the reason, that's Elohim, by the way. And the reason we know it's generic is because here it was used like, don't bring any false gods before me. That's Elohim. And Chad put in his sermon today, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's also Elohim. It's a generic term, right? But when God says, Jehovah, Yahweh, this is my name, it's different. Okay, I want to know why in Exodus chapter 34 in verse 8, Moses bowed to the ground at once. Okay, so I know you said you're going to come with me. I know you've named your angel, or you've told me your angel is going to be ahead of us, but I'm still not convinced and I still want to know more. O Lord, if I have found favor in your eyes, let the Lord go with us. That's not Yahweh. It's Adonai, which is weird to me because that's the word that's used to describe Jesus. Right? In both New Testament and Old, David says, the Lord, all caps, Jehovah, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand. Right? David describes, it's in, Acts chapter 2, right? It's in the first gospel sermon. This is weird. Why would David call him my Lord when he's his descendant? That doesn't happen, but David recognizes Jesus was greater than him, and he uses that term, Adonai, my Lord. The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand. Moses is asking for the Lord, the lowercase, the Adonai, to be here too. I find that really cool. Maybe I'm the only one, but this is weird to me, and I want to study it more. Thoughts? Yeah, Dad.
God had told Moses that he was loving and part of his name, he was forgiving.
Yes.
He would forgive iniquities. But I will punish the guilty. I will punish them, which reminds me of David. He forgave David, but he punished them.
He did. That's right. All right, we are running short on time. I'm going to end it here.